Yeah, good afternoon to all of you. It is indeed an honor and a privilege to welcome Mr. Mittal in our midst for the convocation. Mr. Mittal needs no introduction to an audience of this nature. He is one of the most distinguished global Indian entrepreneurs. May I request Mr. Mittal to make a few opening remarks to initiate the dialogue with faculty and members of the board and IIMA society. So, just a few initial remarks.
Good afternoon, everyone. First of all, let me thank Samir and Mr. Nayak for inviting me this afternoon to be the chief guest for Convocation. Indeed, it is my great honor that I am invited by IIM Ahmedabad. It is very important that institute like IIM Ahmedabad is recognized all over the world. And I am very proud when people speak about the institute like yours. Always people say that this is the Harvard. And people may not know that in some aspects it could be better than Harvard. But at the same time, I'm very happy to talk to you, all the faculty members, because all the credit goes to you. You are the mentor, you are the teacher, you are the path makers for them. You lead the path for them, and some of them excel, some do not excel, but at least you have a path. If some students follow, they can reach to any height. The problem which I always worry about path makers is that how attuned they are with the changing world. Because we are in a very different world which is changing so fast. I don't know whether I should thank to IT, because this has brought so much of transparency, so much of information, so much of knowledge, that sometimes it is very overwhelming, at least to me, when I start thinking back to 70s when I started my business. So it is a real challenge here for all the faculty members and the leaders and the teachers, that how attuned we are to the changing world. This challenge is not only for IIM Ahmedabad, this challenge is even for the Harvard or MIT or Kellogg or Wharton. I sit in the supervisory board of Kellogg, and I know that this is the biggest topic which we keep on challenging the faculties and the management, that are we changing with the change in the world. I can imagine that this is a challenge because we cannot move that fast, and it is like a medicine. Medicine cannot develop as fast as the diseases are coming in this world. So I hope that with the leadership of Samir and his team, this institute is able to move fast in terms of changing the curriculums, changing the way of teaching, and getting the knowledge from world, which is very important. During lunch time, I went to one Gujarati family for lunch, because I love Gujarati food. And I thought it is an international institute, it may not offer me a pakka Gujarati food. So I had a Gujarati kadhi, khandvi and Shri khand. So the discussion which I was having with this family, that how important is the cross-breeding. It's a very stupid discussion, but I think it has a reference to it has a context to this reference. I was saying that today the most intelligent, in my opinion, superpower is United States of America, and it is built on only on crossbreedings. Everyone is immigrant historically. So that means crossbreeding, cross-exchange of information is the key for the future. And that's where I would really urge all of you to increase your knowledge, increase your exposure. Maybe today you are turning out the best students in India, but nothing is sustainable unless we continue to change ourselves, continue to learn more and more, and be aware of what is changing and what could change. In fact, you have to prepare students for 10 years ahead. And that foresightedness, that thought process, that exchange of ideas within the faculty, with the students, I'm sure can bring more challenges. I give you a small example, then I stop. About in 95, one journalist interviewed me, and when my son was in Wharton School of Business. So this particular journalist asked me a question that it was 95 December, and my son was supposed to be finishing in 97, 97, undergrad from Wharton, and this journalist asked me that when your son come back from the Wharton graduation or Wharton school, will he follow you? Will you follow your footstep? And I said to this journalist, no, I will be following his footsteps because he is the future. He has learned something which we have not learned in our times, because they bring the knowledge which I didn't have. And this is the philosophy on which I work, that I follow the young leaders for my future strategies, future discussions, future decisions, because they have much more knowledge. Similarly, what you are training here to the students, they are the future leaders, but they have to be ahead of time by at least 10 years. And that is the challenge which we face in our business, which you face in your industry. So thank you.
I would request you to identify yourself and put your observation, comment, or any question to the guest. Yes, Satish.
I'm Satish Devdar. I'm here in the economics area. We hear a lot about you or your company doing philanthropy, and I hear through newspapers, of course, and which is wonderful. I understand that you train some 10 athletes and spend some money for them, and you gave 1.5 crore to Mr. Bindra, who won the gold medal. This is what we hear from the newspaper. That's wonderful. I think it's a public good that you are serving a cause of. My question is, we being a developing country, how much gold medals we win in Olympics is a reflection of the average health of an individual in the society. So if we just help the athletes who are better off, it's giving a wrong signal to us that we are good. Instead, would you like to, maybe you are doing that kind of work, disproportionately larger serving public cause for the average Indian? For example, midday meal scheme. It's a scheme started by Government of India to increase the health education of the common person. If we spend more on that than to help a Bindra who gets 1.5 crore, that's what I understand. So would you like to, or maybe you are doing some more work in that area itself? This is an open question.
Thank you. You said Satish?
Yeah.
Satish, there are two ways of doing philanthropy in our family and our company. One, what ArcelorMittal is doing we have ArcelorMittal Foundation, and where we have a lot of initiatives in different countries where we have businesses. What we believe that charity begins at home, which means that if we have business in a small town, say in Bathinda, or we have a small in Annaba, or in a Venable Park in South Africa, we should participate in the community development in terms of education, in terms of health. And that's what we do, community development work in all the countries where we have business, and ArcelorMittal has a dedicated fund every year is sponsoring them. Then as a family, we started this Mittal Champion Trust, And it has a background. I was attending Greece, Olympics in Greece, in Athens, 8, 12 years back, I believe, no, 8 years back. And I attended the opening ceremony. I saw a big contingent, 150 people or 200 people from India. And when the closing ceremony was there, we did not get any medal except one gold, one bronze medal by luck. So it really pained me a lot. I said, such a big country, we talk so much in intelligence, yeah, we talk so much in science, we launch rockets, we are talking of missiles, and we could not get one gold medal or one medal for that reason. So that really inspired me to start this Mittal Champion Trust as a family. And I thought, I cannot solve this sports problem. But at least I thought that there should be some catalyst for other business houses, other NGOs and other societies, other governments to start thinking how to create some sports champions in the country. And that's how this started. Bidra was a very special case because if you receive a gold medal after 30, 40, 50 years, it's a matter of great pride. And we had sponsored Bidra to train during pre-Olympics time. We sent him to Germany. We got him few courses done. So that was the reason. And I believe that as much as education is important, as much as health is important, sports is also very important. So we should not undermine the importance of sports and health. I think this is very important, but sports is also very important for the country. You can see the whole country is bound around cricket match, and billions of dollars are spent and earned by different people through one sport, that is cricket. So imagine if the whole country could spend some more money on different sports, how much the country will be proud of.
Yeah, there was a question over there.
I'm Ankur Sari. I first wanted to thank you for being here. I'm asking this context in sort of the comparisons we make between India and China. I'm also asking this question in the context of the Anna Hazare movement and all of that. And you're quite clearly one of the first industrialists from India who's worked across a whole range of countries internationally, and you've dealt with governments with very wide-ranging sort of democratic quality. So I'm just, as an industrialist, and this is sort of maybe an academic question, but I was just curious to learn about your views about how important is democracy or the democratic quality of the government that you're sort of dealing with, especially since a lot of your work is with natural resources. So I just wanted to get sort of your views and thoughts on that.
No, we deal with all different kind of governments, from dictatorship to controlled democracy to controlled dictatorship. So and plus we work in a very sensitive environment like Africa, where the governments are always fearing of some kind of a coup. So we work in all different kind of governments, and every government has a reason to be that structure depending on the country. If you talk to someone in the CIS countries, they will say we are not ready for democracy. We need a controlled democracy, and it has to evolve in the country. And when you go deeply in their culture, their circumstances, their development, their background, I tend to support them a little bit. That yes, your method of government is fine. Because if you open the country for democracy, there could be chaos. The most important thing in any government, whatever be the form of the government, the critical thing is the governance. I mean, if you do not have a governance, proper governance in any form, whether it's a corporate or a government, it cannot function. The problem which you said in passing about Anna Hazare is clearly challenging the governance. It's not challenging the democracy. Clearly, democracy is one of the better form of running the government, but without governance, democracy could be chaos. So my issue is, or if I have to say that what is the issue in the different form of government, I would say all form of governments can survive and work if there is a proper governance and transparency.
Yeah, there's a question over there.
Sir, my name is Amit Garg. Thank you for being here with us. I would just maybe like to understand from you the interaction between industry and academia. How can we, maybe the interaction could be better and faster, since you talked about change and you talked about revising courses. So how to get this feedback? What is your suggestion for IIM Ahmedabad or Indian institutions in general?
Like L&T has their own institute, what I heard from Mr. Naik. We have our own ArcelorMittal University. So you have to work with those industries. What are their practical problems? What are they facing in terms of leadership? The issue which I see in my company, that I get a lot of people from big name universities, but I find that what they have learned is more a basic theory. So what they need is much more exposure to the industry. If there could be way of education which could also participate with the industry on a regular basis, perhaps it could help. You should also go with them, not only you send the students, because learning for the faculty is also important with the industry. By only sending the students for 3 months internship or 3 months program is not enough, because they learn but they cannot understand unless there is a leader from the university. And when you go there, you will also learn, and which you can improvise on your teaching. So I think a very close partnership, understanding is required, and the industry should open for you. If they can accept interns, they should also accept faculty to work with the interns.
Maybe, sir, getting the industry experts to come and teach in the classrooms?
It's a good idea. It is being done. It is being done in a lot of the universities abroad. In my company, we go and my senior management go and speak with our leaders. Like Mr. Naik was just saying that he is a mentor of 15 students. So there is a way out, and we are doing a lot of e-learning. It is not necessary to be physical. We have really reduced, we have increased our e-learning by 85%. We teach about 23,000 leaders in our company, in the way that we have 40,000 people. So 23,000 people have an access to ArcelorMittal University through e-learning. But important for me, as you asked the question about academia, I think faculty members are also required to go and work with the industry to understand their problems, and that's what is being done in many of the universities. They invite us and to go and speak there.
Kartike Sarabhai, member of the society. Brief comment and a question. The comment is that in response to that, one of the largest environmental education programs in the world is supported by ArcelorMittal in India.
Which program is this?
That's why I need to pass it on to you, sir. It reaches at least 200 schools in every district of India, and it is training young people in leadership in sustainability, where they are actually taking action towards sustainability. So I just thought that it's not only a Bindra type of solution, but we have also got almost 200,000 schools with about 100 children in each school supported through this program in all languages of India. Now the question was that we are looking at sustainability, and we tell people that don't just imitate what's happened, but think of new ways, because things are changing in this way. But at the same time, most of the teaching is telling you to imitate a solution which is available. And I'm finding it very difficult. How do we get people to live with the fact that the faculty is knowledgeable about ways of thinking which are current, but the solutions required are going to be different? And how do you break this this cycle of teaching which is making new pathways?
As I said, in my comments, and this is a challenge. This is a real challenge for the world academia. For all the world institutions, this is the challenge, and faculty should believe that they are students, not the teacher. As long as you have that belief that you are also learning and you have to learn to teach, then only you will break that barrier. For me, if I am a CEO of the company, every day I learn and every day I change my decisions because I am learning and I am changing. And this is a very dynamic world, and where teachers have to learn. They have to be first student, then the teacher.
Yeah, you had a question.
It was very nice that you mentioned in the opening remarks about the need for change, need for keeping up with the emerging trends. And I'm just keen to know, because most companies today realize that great innovations will not necessarily come from within the company. Almost everybody, big company has recognized that R&D is not equal to innovation, and a lot of innovations will come from outside the company, outside the organizations. So curious to know as to what specific strategies your company is following, because you are a leader and must have done something right to be on the edge. So what are those things that have helped you to harness innovative potential, not within the company alone, but also outside?
You are right that first of all, I don't believe in big innovations. I believe in a tested and tried innovations, and there is too much of risk. And within the innovation, we have two ways of working in our company. One is innovation on the product side, for which we have our own R&D employing 1,300 people. We have perhaps the largest R&D in the steel company, because we are the largest supplier of steel to autos in the world. That is the first, every fifth car in the world has steel from us, or every second car in America and every second car in Europe must have steel from us. And where we are working very closely with the auto companies to produce steel today of 2020, we should be lighter in the weight by 30% and stronger by 20%. So that innovation comes from within the company, along with the customer. We want to innovate what our customer wants. We don't want to innovate what our customers are not ready. So that is on the technology side, and that's a partnership. It doesn't work, it doesn't come out of the company. And second innovation is in our management. How do we continue to innovate our management styles? The way we manage our business also requires continuous innovation and improvisations. And that comes from the top managements. And that comes from the world economic requirements or development. So that comes from the changes in the competitive landscape, that comes from the different economic developments in different countries. You have to continue to innovate your management styles. Like today, we operate in 45 countries, and we have 20 countries where we have manufacturing operations, and there is at least there are 500 top managers, and each has its own style in different countries, and it has to continue to evolve. For example, the best example to give you, which is very prominent at this time in my company, is the European way of managing the business. Europe has a very old tradition of working in a tradition-based management style, opposed to American way of working, which is much more aggressive, less bureaucratic. So now with the European situation, I mean, everyone is moving towards austerity and reducing the cost. We need to change our management style. We have to reduce our employees by 40%, 30%, and still have the same management efficiencies, we should have the same productivities. And that will come through our own innovation in terms of working. So my focus today is innovation in the management and innovation in the product. And as I said, that the world is changing so fast that innovation in management has become much more important than innovation in the product.
Hello. Of course, it's a pleasure to be interacting you. I'm the one from the industry. I'm a visiting faculty teaching business taxation. I'm Savan Godiawala, but I'm a partner with Deloitte. So my question may be a little relating to what the first question was, Satish, and then of course relating a bit with Anil Gupta's question. That you also hold a stake in QPR, if I understand, and you have some. So now it's a different ball game. That's a steel company, and that's a football club. And the management point of view, do you borrow? I have the same question which I can put two ways. One is, what is the difference in the management in terms of managing these two businesses which are absolutely different? I would put it otherwise. Do you borrow any management practices from the football club to the larger company of yours? Borrow in terms of the style.
At least one thing you definitely borrow for a football club is the team. If the 11 players are not working in a team, they cannot win. So that is the most important thing you borrow, and then you also borrow that in 90 minutes of the game, average run of a player is about 12 kilometers. So that keeps them healthy.
Right.
So these
and all 11 to be in sync, most important.
Yeah, they have to be sync, and they have to run 10 kilometers, and they run 10 kilometers on a football match day, and they run 6 to 8 kilometers every day. So my comment to you that all of you should run at least 8 kilometers a day and work as a team, faculty team, to lay a path for your students. That's the lighter side. On the serious note, QPR has nothing to do with ArcelorMittal. ArcelorMittal is a pure steel and mining company. QPR is a family investment where my son-in-law is, he loves sports. So he runs Mittal Champion Trust, not me. So I'm not involved in QPR management, nor I'm involved in Mittal Champion Trust. It is run by the family. So we have two sides of our business. One, like my daughter-in-law runs Escada, which is a fashion house. So you may perhaps ask the third question, what do you learn from a fashion house to my industry? From fashion house to industry, I learned that how to attract ladies to sell a product, which is not in my case. So we have to make our product also sexier so that more and more customers come. So this is what is the sales part of it, which we learn from a boutique house, that if you have a brand product, it's very interesting. If you have a brand product, and if you have a reputation, and if you have a good marketing, you can sell a bag for 10,000 pounds. You can sell a dress for $3,000, and next door to you, a similar bag cannot be sold for $1,500 and $350 for a dress, right? So you learn from a fashion house that how to brand yourself, how to do a marketing which can create a reputation that you are the best. If you want to buy a Louis Vuitton bag, some people have to stand in the queue in the morning. If you go to Tokyo and if you visit a Louis Vuitton shop, they make you wait outside the queue, and only limited number of customers are allowed inside the shop. It's all a marketing. It's all a branding. It's all a reputation. And this is what you learn in your industry, that on your franchise product, how do you create a brand? How do you create a value? How do you create a customer waiting in the queue? So every business has something to learn for the industry.
Yeah, Shailendra.
Mr. Mittal, my name is Shailendra Mehta. I teach in the business policy area. And some of my work has been looking at how world-class universities have been created in India, Europe, and North America over the past several thousand years. So in that context, I wanted to ask you a question. You mentioned that you sit on the advisory board of the Kellogg School. Now, Kellogg is one school which within living memory has dramatically raised its standards and moved very rapidly up in the rankings. And so we would be delighted to hear your experiences about how you have helped that process and what we can in turn learn from that experience.
I really did not help Kellogg. It's the dean. Deepak played a very important role. Perhaps you know Deepak Jain. And when before that it was Jacob. He and Deepak played a very important role in changing the course of Kellogg. And that they have been very focused on curriculum developments. And that's what I made comment that curriculum change, attracting good talents, getting good placement for them. All this is a reputation and the branding, like a fashion house. That how could Harvard, Kellogg, and Wharton gets 15 times the applications, and how come there are 190 universities in America where you can walk in? Why IIM Ahmedabad gets 10 times the applications? 10 times application than what you admit. I don't know, 10 times, 20 times.
400 times.
400 times.
400 times, yes.
400 times. So 16,000 applications.
More.
Yeah, it's of that order. It is 1:400.
1 is 400, so 160,000 applications you get. So why you get it? So you are like a fashion house, like LVMH. Maybe
I
your
hope you are not.
So the point here is that today you have a brand and reputation, but it has to be a sustainable brand and reputations. And if you do not continue to change your curriculum, cannot have a best quality faculty, it is not a sustainable model. Because otherwise there are competitions which are not keeping quiet. Whether it is the institute or whether it is any industry, any business, you can confirm that there are no competition is never keeping quiet. Like for us, China is the biggest threat. So you have to continue to remodel yourself. Every 6 months you have to review your curriculum, your way of teaching. I remember that in my times when I was a student, I did not like few of the faculty members because what they would teach I would not understand. And some of the faculty I loved because they would teach me and I would understand. So your qualities have also to be changed, and there should be a 360-degree evaluations between the faculty and the students at the various degrees, at the various levels, to get a proper feedback and change yourselves. As I said, you have to be student first than the teacher. We should be ready to change. I change my decisions every day in my company. If I am convinced that I am wrong, I am wrong. If I have to change, we have to change. We change our course of our business as the time changes.
Yeah, you had a question.
Yeah, slightly on a different note.
He is Professor Siddharth Sinha. Yeah.
Right now there is a big discussion going on about how businesses should take a long-term view, and they are not taking long-term views, especially in the light of the recent financial crisis and so on. And one sort of theme that seems to be emerging is that as opposed to the US diffuse shareholding model, perhaps the family business model is more sort of tuned to taking long-term views than and here we have you and we have Mr. Nayak, who probably runs the only slightly manufacturing. The rest of large industry in India is mainly family owned. And so would you sort of agree that in order for businesses to take a long-term view, there must be a long-term owner, like a family business?
I think you are talking from the statistics point of view. Statistically, you are correct that ownership-run business.
There is a lot of theory also.
Yeah, so I'm sure there must be theory. Otherwise, you will not be professor here for that business.
But yeah, basically it does seems to be happening like that
Yeah,
right now.
so statistics,
That was not the view maybe 15, 20 years ago.
yeah, statistics support that ownership business have created more value than the widely spread companies. When I have to talk to my shareholders, I say the same thing. So don't worry. So, but in fact, I think it's all a matter of leadership. There are a lot of cases in the world and in India where ownership business has totally screwed up the business. So I normally have two hats. One is the owner, shareholding of a large shareholder of the company, and second as the CEO of the company. And I do not try to mix these two roles. And these two, at the board level, I have the CEO role, and the shareholders meeting, I have the shareholder role. And I think clearly, being the shareholder, I like to take normally a long-term view, which is true. But at the same time, I should not dilute the role as a CEO of the company professionally. I have a situation which is some of the families also do face, that my son is also there with me. He is a CFO and responsible for my European business, which is 35% of the group's business, about $35 billion. He has $35 billion of portfolio or $30 billion of a portfolio. And he was appointed, he was the youngest CFO of that size of company in the world when we appointed him. And not because he's my son, but because he qualified to be a CFO of that size of a company. So when I sit with him in my executive board meetings or in my various meetings, my relations with him is very professional. We agree to disagree, and we don't agree, and we agree, and we support each other wherever we are right. And a lot of time we have a disagreement and agreements, but still we enjoy very strong professional bonding. But at home we are like father and son. So that is the relation, that is the kind of a structure you need in ownership business. Very professional on running the business, on the governance, on the discipline, process-driven, structured. But as a shareholder, you have to think for your dividend and a value creation, not as you run the company. So it's a fine line, but every leader has to differentiate the role and do his best. Doesn't matter. Mr. Naik is doing a superior job being the chairman of one of the best company in the country. He is not the owner like me. Unfortunately, he should have been the owner, but he is not. But even if he would have been the owner, I don't think he would have changed his way of running the business.
Well, I think you are right. And though this question is meant normally for him, since you named me, I want to tell you, though he said that the widely held company normally perform in majority of the cases worse than the owner-driven company because there are stakes which makes them drive. In case of L&T, when I got appointed as a CEO and I went and met many fund managers and the analysts, and they asked me first question, how much L&T do you own? What percentage of L&T? And I said none in 99. And then he said, then that's not a good news. This was, of course, in Boston. And I said, why is it not good news? He said, unless you have a stake in the company, you are not going to drive with the same enthusiasm and rigor. So I say L&T is different. We are all emotional owners, and that's how we have run this company. And today, I mean, when I was talking to him, there were maybe 13 or 14 years that we had repeated perhaps takeover attempts. But we came out on the top, right? And yet thereafter, I gave a stock options to everyone to make them hearing what that person said, that let us give 2,500 people something to worry about at the end of the day. And believe me not, our market cap went 40 times. Not because we gave stock, but first and foremost, they were emotional owners, but we made their wife see the screen twice a day. And the wife was asking today, L&T share dropped by 20 rupees, what did you do wrong, of course. And now, and the company grew, in spite of dropping many businesses, 12 times. So both models succeed. I think L&T is blessed with its history, its parentage, its values, its integrity, and so many things that continues even now when we have a platinum jubilee. And yet we devise, like what Mr. Mittal says, every day learning to do something new in a newer way. And I also want to tell you that when the Harvard Business and INSEAD conducted the study last year of who has created the maximum value in India, and we came out number 2. So I think both, the number 1 was the owner, except that he benefited from one plant where the resources were early enough that he could get, but nevertheless he was owner, right? And the number 2 was professionally managed, but entrepreneurially driven company. We were earlier professionally managed. The only transformation that I brought is I made it entrepreneurially driven. So you got to have the mix of both. He said from the owner to professional perspective, I said professional to owner perspective.
Yeah, you had a question?
Sir, I have one question. You are operating in a different country and a very big company also. I would like to know what is your risk management architecture, because the world is very dynamic. Number 1. Number 2, which geography is the best to do business? Number 3, what are your current challenges, key challenges?
As a manufacturing company, perhaps we are the first company who started a risk management committee at the board level. If you are in the bank, like I'm in Goldman Sachs.
He's from Bank of Baroda, Mr. Das.
So I tell you, if I'm in a bank, I'm in the board of Goldman Sachs. So there are 3 R's which are important: regulations, risk and remuneration. And that comes after all this. So similarly for manufacturing company, it was new, and we started a risk group in all the businesses. So every company, every major company in our group has a risk assessment, because every country has a different risk profile. If I'm doing a business in Algeria, it could be a political climate which is the highest risk. If I'm doing a business in Europe, the biggest risk is the growth. If the Europe is not growing. So accordingly, then we classify the different risk in different countries, and we try to address them. Like in some countries, the biggest risk is the foreign exchange movement. In some countries, we have the biggest risk of raw material disruptions. So there is a profile made in every company, every country, and the CEO of the company manages those risks. And when we discuss our strategy documents in our companies, all the time those risks are taken into account when we discuss 5-year strategies, and we discuss this every year, and every 6 months it is reviewed. Every year we spend time. So those risks are also kept in mind. Then at the board level, I have to define top 10 risks of the company, because culmination of all the risk, what is the biggest risk we are having? So today the biggest risk for ArcelorMittal is the world economy. We are a global company. If the world economy does not grow, we cannot grow, or we cannot sell our products. ArcelorMittal business is proxy to the world economy. We are the pulse for the world economy. And So that is our biggest concern all the time in different markets, how the growth is happening. Do I answer all your three questions?
That's a consulting you're asking.
You see, problem is this, that every geography has their own issues. There is no geography which does not have issues. Be it United States, be it Brazil, or be it China, everyone has a problem. Or the issues, some countries have issues of environment, some countries have a problem of political situations, and some countries like India have a problem of bureaucracy. So all the countries have a problem, but I would still say that if you have established business, United States still is the best in terms of doing the business.
Yeah.
I'm Asha Kaul, and I have two questions, sir, for you. Okay. I have two questions for you. I don't know whether
I'm glad that you don't need the mic. You can speak very loud, even at home. No, I'll answer your second question first. I think that is part of our CSR activities. In any country, we want to do the business, we want to carry a goodwill in that country. We want to carry ArcelorMittal flag in a positive way to the community and to the society. That's very important for us. Which is true, but at least it is if we want to start these initiatives of our own, it is very difficult to start. There will be other problems of starting. Like you have a problem of starting a business, you will have a problem in starting all those different CSR initiatives because some other interested groups will oppose. Like all NGOs are not holy cow. Everyone has their own agenda, like politicians have or business people have. They also have their agendas. So we have noticed that if we don't start these initiatives with some existing NGOs, we do not succeed from our own experience. Once you have established, you can start ArcelorMittal Foundation. So that was why we started and we picked up this. Like there was in Haiti, there was a big earthquake and we wanted to participate because we don't produce there, but we have business relations. So we did not start from our own because we don't have any base. So we picked up one of the renowned NGO to build homes there and provide steel there. So all these things we do with some of the established NGOs. For reputation, the most important is governance within the company. I believe that if you have a strong governance, very open and transparent business ethics, and if your line of management is very clear, and if you have a good ethic culture in the organizations with your stakeholders, it builds reputations. They may not like you, but if they can see that the company has a strong culture of ethics, code of conduct, and governance, you build your reputation around your stakeholders, and that is very important. And I have seen this, that because of the strong governance which we have followed in our companies, we have succeeded in everywhere. We did not have to bribe in countries. We go with our reputation that this company has a very open way of doing business. They have a very professional whether I am the owner, shareholder or not, that does not mean the company is very professional. And today we can walk in anywhere in the world because of the ethics, because of code of conduct, because of governance. I give you a very different example. In 2006, when we launched the acquisition of Arcelor, a company which is a famous company. That's why my company is called ArcelorMittal. Before it was only Mittal Steel. And no one liked this. They hated me, and when I went to meet the French finance minister, started making racial comments. They say, like, you must have read about Montebou 2 months back. He says Lakshmi Mittal is not wanted in steel in France. So similarly, there was racial comments made by minister in 2006 when I launched this bid. So we fixed a breakfast meeting, and in French, in that office, there was a long table, half of this size, and he was sitting there, I was sitting here. It was supposed to be a breakfast table, breakfast meeting. This guy put a cup of coffee here, a cup of coffee in front of him, and a basket of croissant here. We had such a hard discussions that he did not even offer me breakfast. 150 journalists were waiting outside to hear the outcome of this meeting, because it was such a big merger deal where I was opposing, I was facing opposition from 6 head of states. At one time, Putin, Chirac, Belgium Prime Minister, Luxembourg Prime Minister, Spain and Brazil. I was fighting against each one of them. So when the discussion started, he told me first thing, Lakshmi, pack your suitcase, go back to London. I said to him, look in his eyes, I said, what was his name? I forgot, Thierry Breton. I said, Thierry, there you don't call excellencies and all this. I don't call the ministers excellencies. I said, Thierry, my suitcase will not get closed. Let us discuss the business. So we discussed 5 subjects. He did not agree. I said, Thierry, we did not agree. Call your secretaries, let us record the discussions that we did not agree on anything. But you will have to agree one thing, that if you don't stop making racial comments, there will be riots in the streets of Paris tomorrow. On this point we agree. I said, let us call the secretaries and record these 6 points. So I can talk to these ministers and these people in the same language, because we have a reputation of transparency, strong ethics, strong governance.
Very good.
Yeah, I think we have time for just one last question. Yeah,
in
over
fact,
there.
I wanted to ask a different question, but having heard a little bit of the conversation about women being referred to as buyers of goods which are horrendously expensive, and as people who just look at the stock market and push their husbands to buy, to do better. Yeah, I just want to know what your views are about what women can contribute to the organizations, to management. I think there's a lot of work being done to see how can we have more women representation on the board. And if you agree that women are required, then what are you doing and what should the industry be doing?
It's a very good question, and we have created clearly that we are not doing justice to women participation in a larger role in society, in community, in business and in politics, which is very clear. I mean, I must confess that we are not doing justice. And every time we have a discussion, we like to encourage women participation. Even if I look around this hall, there are only 8 women or 6 women sitting in this hall, 8 or 10. So we have to encourage the participation, and in our company we have created a women participation group, and it is chaired by one of my top senior lady vice president, and every 6 weeks there is a women career committee meeting where we go through what are the roles and where they can be they can be introduced. In my succession plan, in my company, I do the succession, review the succession plan of about 150 top executives, where I know them individually and I look after the succession plan. I say I don't accept any succession plan where one name is not of a woman. So if I get 5 names, at least one name must be of women. You can say that this person is not ready for 5 or 6 years or 8 years, at least put the name. So everyone, we have to make small steps, and I hope that someday we make progress. But in that respect, you must know that CIS countries made a tremendous progress. In my Kazakhstan plant, I have 40% women. In Ukraine, I have 25–30% women, because they do all kind of work. They are putting material into the blast furnace, they are driving the cranes, they are driving the tractors, they are driving the heavy ladle cars. So their role is very much on the grounds, not only sitting in the office doing the number crunching or doing the analysis work or processing. At this time, what we are doing in India, if I visit some of the call centers, we are all doing a processing work or back office work. So this role has to be developed, and we have to force this. Clearly, there is a great scope for this, and given the opportunity and exposure, one can be of the same level.
I know that we have many more questions, but we need to bring this session to close. Let's give Mr. Mittal a big hand for a wonderful interactive session. May I request Chairman to hand over a memento to Mr. Mittal?